Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a review of the Castle Freak remake. Now, the only reason why I'm doing this is because I actually watched it last night on a cast with Purity and some of her stream, and it is one of the most epically bad things I think I've seen in a good long time, especially something that's Lovecraft related. I'm going to compare it very much to the original, so if you haven't seen either one, you're going to get spoilers for both of those probably, or at least minor ones anyway. Definitely spoilers for the new movie, because I don't give a fuck if I spoil that, so if you don't want to do that and you want to watch this thing, feel free. If not, then you can continue on. So basically, the opening of the film is somewhat similar. There's basically... The opening has the castle, which is, the whole basis of the thing, and then there's a freak that lives in the castle, again, hence the name. And that freak lives in some kind of a dungeon, and he gets whipped on a regular basis by this woman, who then dies. Now, what winds up happening in the newer film is that we go into this whole thing looking at these people who are all douchebags, basically. Every single person that we see is a douchebag. And two of those douchebags, who happen to be dating, get shit-faced, get in their car, and then decide to drive home. This results in a car accident, again, similar to the car accident, kind of similar to the original, where the girlfriend is then made blind, even though they did not have enough money to actually put the glass in her eyes like they did for the original. Now, the difference there is that we don't actually see the car accident scene in the original until later in the film to explain why the daughter is blind. Because in the original film, actually, it's Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton as a struggling married couple and their blind daughter and their son, who had died in the car accident. And the daughter was made blind by glass that went into her eyes. And the reason why the car accident happened was because Jeffrey Combs was drunk. Barbara Crampton was not in the car. So there's a big difference there, and I think that that's kind of where we start out with this. That kind of makes it go downhill, is we don't have real investment with the characters. In the original, which was directed by Stuart Gordon, we had a connection because we remembered, although not just because the characters are better, but because we remembered those characters from, well, not those specific characters, but those actors from Reanimator, because Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton were also in that film. And the difference there is that the Castle Freak one was a bit more, it was less comedic, which I think maybe might have made it not as successful as maybe some of Stuart Gordon's previous entries. But the point is that the new one does not really, it doesn't give us any kind of connection, because all the characters are not really that likable. And the other thing is, it's very cliche, and this was mainly produced by Fangoria, so it's kind of a paint-by-numbers type of thing. So the girlfriend, who is now blind, finds out that she inherited the castle, and the douchebag boyfriend wants to go there and sell the castle, and he decides to invite all the dudes that he parties with in order to get the stuff out of the castle and sell it. So that, again, that kind of makes sense given his character, because, again, he is a douchebag, and we see throughout the film that he progressively becomes more of a douchebag along with everybody else. Now, the parts... now we go through the early parts of the film, and we see the Castle Freak on a couple little occasions. They don't really keep it hidden. That's my other problem. Is they have two different versions of the makeup effect. They have a full makeup effect, which is, you see the full face and everything, and then they have a makeup effect that has it with like a sack on its head, kind of like the original film. Now it goes between those, which I don't understand why. In the original film, I think it started with the sack on the head and then it removed it at a point. But in this one, it seems to go back and forth, which could either mean that the editor was fucking stupid and didn't edit the correct scenes together, or they just didn't feel like refilming those scenes because they had some kind of an error in them, or maybe it's because the Castle Freak this time has been changed around to a woman. In the original one, it was supposed to be a brother, a long lost brother of Jeffrey Combs. Now in this one, it's supposed to be the sister of the chick that is blind, and she didn't realize this. Now, the parts of this movie that really, really, really fail are its relation to Lovecraft. Now, the original one is very, very loosely based on the Lovecraft story, The Outsider. Now, I haven't read The Outsider, but I have seen the first Castle Freak movie, obviously. But it's supposed to be very loosely based on that, but all the Lovecraftian elements are basically edited out of the story. There's no real Lovecraftian elements in the story. It's just a very confined story about this family who lives in this castle and finds this, monster that they then have to confront that is related to Jeffrey Combs. In this, we find out that basically the Castle Freak, or Freakess, whatever you want to call it, is actually somehow a portal to the Cthulhu universe, to like the old gods universe. And I need to go over this. There is a character named the Professor. This character is the dumbest character in the film, and it is probably the worst, and it is probably played by the worst actor, and that is saying something. When this guy reads exposition, which is all he ever does, he is just an exposition dump. It sounds like he is reading it off of a cue card. It's supposed to be one of those things where he's supposed to be this eccentric kind of genius. He talks in very, very quick sentences with very large words. And he's supposed to be basically kind of like a Lovecraft nerd. At one point, they actually find the Necronomicon. And he is the only person that apparently knows what the fuck it is. But they find the Necronomicon, and apparently they figure out that the Castle Freak somehow was created in order to open a gate to the Cthulhu universe, and apparently the entire community, or small Italian community around the castle, is also in on this. They also have some kind of tongue-in-cheek references. There's a Cthulhu statue at one point that gets shattered. There's there's a few other smaller things, like I said, the Necronomicon. But then the end of the movie is really where shit gets kind of weird, because then you have the cult come in, and I have no idea why every single one of these newer movies has to have a cult. Black Christmas, the remake of that, had a cult for some reason. I'm pretty sure there's been a few other ones especially recently, that have had cults in them. Now, sometimes it works like a Mandy type of thing, but in this, it really, really doesn't. It just feels tacked on. And that's the problem, is all the Lovecraft elements in this feel very much tacked on, because you don't really need them to tell the story of Castle Freak, which, again, is kind of my problem with this, even though I'm aware that they try to do it a little bit differently. I think this was made as a cash grab, personally. I think this was made as a cash grab because everybody's kind of Lovecraft happy right now. You had Lovecraft Country that came out, which I don't want to watch the rest of that series. I watched the first episode. I think I've seen enough. In addition to Color Out of Space and few other ones too that have come out recently that are related to Lovecraft's works. So yeah, I feel like it was something like that, and then they twisted it to make it a little bit more of a female-centric story, because the main character is now, well, one of the main character, not, in the original it was Jeffrey Combs, and this one it's the blind chick, and they made the Castle Freak a woman, and then the end of the movie happens. So the douchebag boyfriend, after all of his buddies have been brutally murdered by the Castle Freak, the Castle Freak then apparently is powerless to stop him for whatever reason. Also, he's the most jacked drug addict I've ever seen. That's another thing in this where there's a lot of he's, in addition to being just a general douchebag, he's also a drug addict, and he then he's trying to kill the thing with a mace, and of course the blind girlfriend comes up and tries to stop him because she's an idiot and doesn't realize that this monster has been killing people, multiple people, inside their house, and she's like, oh no, it's my sister. It's like, no, you're blind. This is a hideous fucking monster that has murdered more than a few people. So as he is about to bludgeon the thing to death, she tries to stop him, and she basically has it so it's just enough time for him to be stopped, and then the Castle Freak lives. So at the end of the film, actually this happens a little bit before that too. There's another scene where a similar thing happens. There is a tentacle that shoots out of the Castle Freak's vagina, which is massive. I don't know why, but apparently there's a tentacle that shoots out, because apparently the Cthulhu universe comes out of its vagina. And then at the end of the movie, the cult takes the blind chick and the Castle Freak, puts them in front of some mystical gate. The Castle Freak tentacle comes out, and then the blind chick has a tentacle and an eyeball that comes out of her pussy. And then the movie just ends. This is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen. Actually, I shouldn't say that. This is definitely not up there on the dumbest things I've ever seen, but this is one of the dumber things Lovecraftian that I've ever seen, because nothing is really ever explained in terms of most of it. Just like, oh, Necronomicon, open the gate to the old ones, yada yada yada, and then on top of it, at the end of it, when the gate is actually being opened, the professor character who's been wandering around this entire time at the Necronomicon is like, yes, open the gate to death. It's like, isn't the coming of the old ones supposed to be like the end of the world? Is that what it's supposed to fucking be? Like the world just devolves into madness? So I don't know why he would be particularly excited about that, unless he's just a nihilist and wants to see everything burn, which I guess I could see. But like I said, the acting in this movie is not great. Most of it sucks. None of the characters are likable. Most of them are either annoying or stupid. The monster has been just stapled together into a Lovecraftian horror because reasons. And the movie itself, the production value, I don't think is that good. The only thing I will praise it for is the makeup effects are not bad. The makeup effects are okay. The Castle Freak makeup is alright. I think the costume itself is pretty good, except for the massive vagina. That's just weird. But everything else in this movie is basically mediocre. I can see that most of the budget was dumped into the special effects. Which, like I said, the special effects actually are not that bad, even the eyeball vagina. But it's not a good movie. It really isn't. I would probably give this like a 1 out of 5 stars if I had to give it like a rating, because really all it does good is the makeup effect. The acting is not, like I said, the acting is not good. The writing is not good at all. You can see a lot of the kills coming from a mile away. You can see a lot of the plot points coming from a mile away. I mean, we were calling it while watching it. And also, just to add this on, Purity Sin also reminded me to say that she hates this fucking movie, and it can go fuck itself. I had to add that at the end, otherwise I would get bitched at later. Okay, so with that being said, I want to know what you guys think. Have you seen the Castle Freak remake? Have you not seen it? Do you like the original? Do you want to see the original? Do you want to see the new one? I mean, if you've watched this entire movie through, this entire video through, you probably already have seen it. But regardless, I want to know what your thoughts are. So put them in the comments below as usual. Remember, this is also a Shudder exclusive, so you can see this on there, or you can also see this. You can probably find it pirated online somewhere. But as usual, put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?